everyone. My name is Gilda Ross. I'm the Glenbard Student and Community Projects Coordinator. I'm so glad that you could join us. It is a very busy time of year, and we're so grateful that you could make this time for us. As you know, Glenbard Parent Series seeks to inspire, connect, and educate families around the positive development of youth. And we love it when people share the resource of the Glenbard Parent Series. This wouldn't happen without you, and of course it wouldn't happen without our sponsors. You just saw the slide of our annual sponsors and our partners, and here is the brochure. I welcome you to go to the Glenbard Parent Series website, glenbardgps.org, and there you'll see the list of the 50 programs that we have organized for this year. And your homework is to like us on social media and let others know that these free virtual events are here for everyone. So thank you for that. And again, thank you to their sponsors who make it all possible. Before we begin this critically important evening, I'd like to tell you quickly about what is coming up. On Thursday night, there is a program in Spanish at Glenbard North in person. So to let someone know who might be interested in that. We're back in January on the 5th with Dr. Carla Naumberg. Carla has a book, You Are Not a Shitty Parent, and we're calling it You Are Not a Bad Parent, How to Practice Self-Compassion and Give Yourself a Break. That's at noon and at 7 p.m. That's her first time with us. And then following Carla, we're gonna veer off in a different direction, the varied paths to 21st century careers. Paul Corona is with Northwestern. His career director, the Career Center, will be joining him. There'll be personnel from the College of DuPage, so we can explore some of the other opportunities for students, not necessarily in a traditional path. That's going to be on the 10th. And then coming up, following that, this is a program that I hope everyone will write on their calendar now. This program is not to be missed. Andrew Solomon is probably one of the most eloquent speakers we've ever hosted. I'm thrilled he's coming back. He writes about his own depression in a way that makes it truly so real, so applicable, so easy to understand. Again, please circle your calendar when Andrew Solomon joins us at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 18th. Then we'll be talking about social skills. This is a concern in schools today, strategies to foster social skills with the amazing Michelle Garcia winner on the 25th at noon and at 7 p.m. So take out your calendar and again, thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. I'm going to turn the program now over to Marina Kozak, who is the Assistant Principal of Student Services at Glenbard South High School, for the introductions. Thanks, Marina.
Thank you, Gilda. Tonight, we will experience going into a teen's room to look for warning signs of drug use or vaping. We will also learn about drug trends and proactive parenting strategies. This discussion will be led by Lindsay Just, MBA, Executive Director of the Addiction Resource Council, a licensed prevention, intervention, and information agency that has been in existence for over 54 years. The bedroom tour will be followed by One Pill Can Kill, Fake Prescription Pills in the Age of Fentanyl, A Father's Story, with Dean Jeske. Following the tragic loss of his son, Peter, Mr. Jeske has partnered with Song for Charlie, a nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading life-saving information about this deadly crisis. Please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A or chat, and we will answer them as time permits later in the program. Let's welcome them both to GPS for this critical conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. My name is Lindsay Just, and I'd like to thank the Glenbard Parent Series as we begin. I'm going to share my screen. Before we begin, I'd like to chat about some key considerations that we like to share. Here are a few things. Everything we talk about today is in our Your Choice handbook, and I'll share a little bit more about that at the end of the bedroom presentation, but it is for sale on our website. And it'll have more in depth on what we're going to go through in the bedroom. And I'd also like to preface that not every child is going to experiment with substances. The third is context is key. If a teen has deodorant in his or her bedroom, it does not mean they're hiding substances. And lastly, knowledge is power. The more you know, the sooner we can intervene if we need to. So let's go ahead and chat about some drug trends that we see happening. Addiction Resource Council has been around for many, many years, and we have many prevention programs within our community here. And we always ask, and we always survey, and these are some things that we like to share with parents. Alcohol, let's talk about that. When we look at studies of teen substance use, alcohol is high on the list of substances that teens experiment with. And here are some sneaky ways that teens can use alcohol, some things we don't think about. One of them is they can soak tampons in alcohol and insert them. Boys and girls can do so. They can soak candy in alcohol and eat them. They can vape alcohol, which we'll get into a little bit more, which is very dangerous, actually. Vaping alcohol and that heat mixed with the alcohol can combust and the vape pen can blow up. And they can actually put alcohol in the corner of the eyeball, which is another place that's not common, but we like to share it because it gets teens super drunk or somebody super drunk. We share this information with you just to make you aware that people are creative. If you have a student or teen acting intoxicated, but you don't smell any alcohol, they could be getting drunk another way. So why is it important for our teens to wait until the age of 21 to drink alcohol? We get asked that question constantly. A lot of people say things like, well, if they can vote at 18 or they can fight for our country at 18, why can't they have a drink? We hear that a lot. Well, that's because between the ages of 12 and 20, it's the biggest growing period of their brain, of the teenage brain. And they're learning to cope with problems, handle stress, deal with anger, and even know how to have fun. When they add a substance into that growing period of their brain will teach itself that in order to do that thing, it needs that substance constantly. Another reason why it's so important that we wait to drink alcohol after we're 21 years of age is because if we consume alcohol, studies show the sooner a person starts drinking alcohol, the more likely they will become chemically dependent on alcohol in the future. 4 out of 10 people who drink before 14 will develop a chemically dependency. 1 out of 10, they will wait until after the age of 20. So let's talk about vaping. As we heard, the vaping is a common issue in many schools. I like to show this graphic here because it shows the evolution of a vape pen. When vape pens started coming out, they were called cig-alike, and they looked a lot like cigarettes, as you can see in the graphic on the screen. They were really commonly used to stop people from smoking or to help them quit smoking, but it was soon found out that that wasn't really helping. What studies showed was actually they were smoking more. They were just smoking the vape and a regular cigarette, which actually caused more problems. In 2003, the first e-cigarette hit the market, and that's the cig-alike one that you see in the graphic. And it was actually made in China and was marketed in China. And in 2007, it came to the US. From there, devices got smaller, sleeker, and easier to conceal. And this is when we started to see an increase in teens using vaping devices. So when we go throughout the room, we'll show you what that looks like. And so you'll be able to see with some of these vape devices, they're very crafty. Some of them are very small, look like small zip drives, like the one on the end. And some of them look like makeup pots. So we'll show you some of those. And that's this graphic here. It shows they're all different sizes. You can see that some of them are very small and easy to conceal. There are thousands of devices on the market, and this is just a snapshot of many different sizes. You can pretty much buy them anywhere. So what can be vaped? Nicotine, that is really common. A lot of students, when we talk to them and we present to them in class, they think that the nicotine in a vape pen is not as bad as the nicotine in a traditional cigarette. Unfortunately, that's not the case. In reality, a vape pen nicotine is way more potent than a traditional cigarette. They're almost better off smoking a traditional cigarette. We don't tell you that, but the reason being is when somebody's vaping a vape pen, they don't know where the traditional cigarette ends and a new one starts. You can't tell how many cigarettes you've actually vaped. So in a traditional cigarette, most people, when they're done with that cigarette, they put it out and they throw it away. Well, with the vape pen, you don't really know if you've had 2 cigarettes, 3 cigarettes, 4 cigarettes, and some of those vape pens have up to 50 cigarettes in them. So if you smoke an entire half a vape pen or a vape pen, a whole vape pen, you may have smoked more than 1 pack of cigarettes. They can also smoke cannabis in it. They can smoke alcohol, like I stated, dabs, which we're going to get into, which is that sticky, waxy substance up in the corner, cocaine, meth, opiates, and pretty much anything that can handle heat. So why do teens vape? So we've also asked that question many times. And one of the things is they say it's not as gross as cigarette smoking. So throughout the years, cigarettes have been deemed as awful. We've seen a lot of ads and pictures and things that have made traditional cigarettes look like they're just gross to people. They smell bad. Their teeth get yellow. There's no tar in your lungs, or there's tar in your lungs. And so, but vape pens to them, they smell like fruit. They aren't as gross as traditional cigarettes, and they don't look like traditional cigarettes. So their minds don't correlate that with a traditional cigarette. Another reason why vapes are popular with teens is because they don't smell. They don't smell like your traditional cigarette where it sticks to your clothing and it just smells awful. It usually smells like candy of some sort, or fruit, or whatever fun flavor they're picking for that. Their teeth don't turn yellow, and there's no tar in their lungs. And like I said, the flavors make it fun. So they might have like a Swedish fish flavored one, or a grape one, or a Sour Patch Kids one. There's all sorts of different flavors. They're easy to hide and get away with, and we're going to show you that in the bedroom as well. And it gives them a head rush. So if they smoke enough and fast enough, like I told you guys, that there's multiple cigarettes in that one vape cartridge. If they smoke that fast enough, and the majority of that vape pen, they will get a head rush. And we also don't know the long-term effects of vaping. They haven't been around long enough to know. It took 20 years before we figured out what happened with traditional cigarettes, and we haven't had that long with vaping to see what's really going on. So these are the risks of vaping. These are some, we don't know the long-term risks, but these risks that are listed on the screen are the short-term risks that we do know. Things like mouth and throat irritation, coughing and wheezing, worsening asthma, chest pain, raised blood sugar, raised heart rate, upset stomach, and nausea. And then there's also a thing called popcorn lung now, that they're seeing small lesions. It literally looks like popcorn on the lungs, and they break open and they ooze, and it causes permanent lung issues. Some other risks of vaping, as you can see in these pictures, rather graphic pictures, aside from health effects, is vape devices themselves can be dangerous. They can explode, causing third-degree burns on the mouth, hands, and any pocket area. Most teens carry it in their pockets somewhere, so it can explode in there. And you can see it causes rather bad burns, where some of these teens have had to have major surgery. And this picture, the next graphic I'm going to show, is of how powerful the explosion can be. In this particular case, it broke this teen's jaw. So explosions are not super common, but I do like to make people aware that this is also a risk. People don't think about that as well. You're actually creating chemical gases within that vape pen, and it can cause explosions. So where do teens purchase? Many times people ask how teens are able to purchase devices underage. And here are some responses that we've heard from teens. There are parents who will purchase them for their teen, quite frankly, because they might feel that they're not at risk if they use that as opposed to a traditional cigarette. And gas stations and vape shops that don't ask for the identification. That happens all the time. We have now seen in our area, in our community, vending machines with vape pens in them and things of that nature. We actually went and tried to purchase vape pens and Delta 8, which is a cannabis product, or cannabis-like product. And they don't even ask for identification. So you just put your credit card in and purchase it. And sometimes teens can get credit cards or Visa credit cards for special occasions like holidays, birthdays, and they're gift cards, but they act just like a credit card. So all they have to do is go and purchase that. Many devices can be purchased online. Same thing. Some will ask for identification and others will not. And teens have said they have gone as far as stealing their parents' driver's license in the middle of the night, uploading it in a vape store account so that they can purchase the device and ship it to the house whenever they wish. So let's talk about cannabis. It is important when discussing cannabis to distinguish the difference between CBD and THC. The differences are listed here. For the purpose of this presentation, from this point on, we will be referring to the THC compound as cannabis. Back in the 60s, cannabis had THC levels of 6 to 7%. Today's cannabis can be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. So it's a lot stronger drug than it used to be. These are some of the ways that people smoke cannabis flower, like they use it in vape devices, like we chatted about with the vape part, bongs, glass pipes, blunts, and joints. Some people prefer to vape cannabis flower because the vapor dissipates faster than if someone were to smoke a joint or a blunt. This is what a dab looks like. This is what they use in the vape pens that we were talking about. There's no smell. It's another popular form of cannabis, and it's called the dab. And I'm not talking about this dab, like the dance dab. It's the cannabis dab. So teens usually don't make them. They buy them already made. There are many different ways to make dabs, but one is to take dry green leafy cannabis, put it in a tube, and force butane gas through the tube. Out the end of the tube comes a dab, and it's like a waxy substance. It's pretty much indetectable. There's really no smell, but it has high concentration rate. Like I stated before, traditional marijuana contains 20, 30, 40% THC. A dab contains 80 to 99% THC. So it's highly concentrated marijuana. People only need a little bit to get high, and are very popular among our high school students. Too much of a dab, though, will cause psychosis and blackouts. This slide shows how many different types of concentrates are on the market in legal states. There's quite a bit here. There's crumble, butter, shatter, distillate, crystalline, dry sift, rosin, bubble hash, and probably many, many more that we don't even know about anymore. So here are tools one would use to vape dabs. Like we showed, they have what's called dab pens. They're very skinny. We're going to show you some of those in the bedroom as well. And the dab pens actually look like a pen. It could be very well mistaken for that. They can use like a dab rig with a nail. They need a torch to do it. And then obviously they need to concentrate. But you can see this comes in many different sizes also. Carts, which are short for cartridge, are pre-filled cartridges of concentrated THC. The base of the device can be purchased at a gas station or anywhere vape devices are sold, and then the THC cart is attached in a vape. This particular one shown is 80 to 85%, and these can be tricky to identify because they look like nicotine vape devices, so that it really doesn't look like much different. So what should you know? These are some common concerns being raised about the use of high concentrated THC. And some of these include the methods of extraction is the consumer inhaling that are into their lungs. And the THC content is much higher than traditional flower cannabis. And high concentration THC can lead to a non-fatal overdose psychosis and blacking out. A lot of people say you cannot overdose from cannabis. And an overdose is defined as an unintended event. So if they were not intending on passing out or a psychotic episode, then that can be classified as an overdose. The long-term effects of high concentration THC products are actually unknown at this point still. They just haven't been around long enough to find out what the true long-term effects are. And edibles are another type of cannabis product. What makes edibles different is that when the THC is ingested, it takes longer for the body to process it and for the consumer to feel high. This leads consumers to use more. Ultimately, the consumer will feel the effect they're looking for, but many experience a blackout or psychosis if too much is ingested. It's really hard, especially for somebody, even myself, for a teen, when you're looking at an edible candy bar and it has like 6 different little portions that you're supposed to eat and only eat one. If you feel nothing, you might eat a second one or a third one, or eat the whole thing, which could cause a reaction. And this is just another snapshot of products on the market that contain THC. They have THC infused tampons, suppositories, essential oil, elixirs and tinctures, beverages and drops, and hash oil syringe. I think the main thing to consider with THC products in youth is why youth should not be using it. Their brain is still developing up until the age of 24. And quite frankly, it depends on the type of THC that they're ingesting or cannabis they're ingesting. It could be very, very harmful. So what can you do? Parents and schools often wonder how they would know what is in the vaping device. So Your Choice to Live offers THC surface test strips that test vape devices, edibles, wax, oils, anything for the presence of THC. You simply rub the test swab over the suspected item and then rub the swab on the card, and within seconds, the results will appear. And you can see that our website down there has them for sale. Cannabis risks for teens. One of the risks for teen cannabis use is the potential for chemical dependency. Just like with alcohol, the younger a person starts using cannabis, the higher the risk for dependence. And you can see 1 in 10 adults and 1 in 6 teens who try cannabis will become chemically dependent on it. And the adolescent brain is especially susceptible to cannabis use. So how do we stay up to date? A lot of people ask us that. So how do we know what the new trends are? And these are some simple ways that you can Google these types of sayings. I would suggest you don't Google them at work, because if they look at your computer, you might get in some trouble. But this is exactly what teens do. We asked several teens, what do you do to know, how do you get high? Like, how do you know what to use next, basically? And these are some things that they actually Google too. So you can find this right on Google. How do I get high? And how can I hide my drugs? Anything that you might want to know. You can also Google things like, how can I get high without my parents knowing? Or you can actually pretty much Google anything to find out ways to get high these days. So before we get into the bedroom, I just want to mention that this presentation was assembled by people with lived experience of drug dependence, parents whose son, daughter became involved with drugs and alcohol, and siblings. In addition, law enforcement, school administrators, and the public have contributed to this presentation as well. As you may notice, this bedroom is split in half, and I'm going to actually stop sharing the screen so you can see this. One side of the room is a female side, and one side of the room is a male side. And the reason we did this is so that no parent walks into this room and says, this does not pertain to me, as I have daughters and this is a boys' room. All the items in the bedroom setting can also be found in a car, locker, dorm room, basement, backpack, and in a classroom setting. We have chosen to use the bedroom as the setting. And all items were purchased from Spencer's Gifts, local vape and tobacco shops, Amazon, and other online stores. And I just want to mention that we just purchased some new products to put into this room, and you can purchase them on Etsy as well. So things that, and they're rather inexpensive. So they come really fast. So there's certainly ways that kids can get into this. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides, and we're going to walk you through the bedroom. We're just going to adjust the camera a little bit here. So we're going to walk you through the bedroom, and my coworker will be moving the table, and I'll bring items to you closer as we go through it. As you can see, this bedroom is set up, like I said, in the boys and girls version, and they each have their own size. We're going to start over here at the desk.
Can you tip the camera down a little bit?
There we go. Yep,
Thank you.
that's fine. Perfect. So we're going to start over here at the desk, and we're really going to start with the water bottle. This looks like a traditional water bottle. There's water in it. The cap is locked. There's nothing on the bottom. It's really water. You can see that in there. But when you open it, it's actually a stash container. So you could pretty much have this sitting out anywhere, and it looks just like a water bottle. It was pretty eye-opening to me. I'll be honest with you. One of my staff members had it sitting on my desk when we first started doing this presentation, and I thought it was just a regular water bottle, but no, you could pretty much hide any drugs in there. Another thing that they have that I find interesting is sometimes the obvious things are the things that we don't really look at as parents. I have 2 kids myself. I have a teenage 19-year-old boy and a 25-year-old daughter. And these magazines, if they were out, if I didn't really look at it, I might not know what it is. But this is High Times magazine. And this is one of the things I read cover to cover just to see what it was when we first purchased this. And it actually had me convinced that using marijuana was healthy for me. It was going to stop my anxiety. It was going to stop any world problems that I had was going to go away if I used marijuana. So this is a telltale sign that your teen might be looking to start experimenting. Another thing to look for is Visine. Now we all know what Visine is used for, but a lot of times people will take this and use this, you know, to clear red eyes. So this is just a sign. Just doesn't mean that if somebody has Visine and they're using drugs or drinking alcohol, it's just a sign to be aware of. Like, if you're not used to seeing your kid have Visine out, why would they have Visine, right? So it might make it something to question. On my desk, I have 2 highlighters. You can see that this highlighter is a normal highlighter. They hollow this out and they can put anything in here, needles, marijuana, some dab pens will fit in this, and it still writes and you wouldn't even know still has a bottom. But interestingly enough, they can buy another one that has a, let me get it open here. That has a pipe, a 1-hitter pipe in the bottom of it. So if this is just laying in a pencil bag, you may not even look twice at it, even though it has a gold bottom. You may not even notice it. It still writes too. So you can still use it and it writes, but it is just a 1-hitter pipe at the bottom. Another thing that was brought up was these cute little containers. I actually thought these were like chapstick containers or lipstick containers when these were put on my desk. I was like, oh, interesting. There's some cute little lipstick or something. But my staff told me they're actually silicone containers made for dabs. They open up and they are hollowed out, and the dabs don't stick to it because the dabs are a waxy substance. So if you see little containers like this around, I check into them and just see really what's in them. But they are like that. Another interesting thing, bring both of these over here, are cans. These look like traditional cans. They're very heavy. They feel like there's stuff in them. But amazingly, this is a Monster can. Looks just like the label, has the nutrition facts on the back. Could fool me until I open it up. Anything can be stashed in there. Weed, pills, whatever can be stashed in there. And they come in all different shapes and sizes, which is concerning. Here's an Arizona tea can or Arizona mango tea can. And same thing, the top opens up and can be stored anything. These really are realistic. And when I tell you about Etsy, this is the one we just got off of Etsy, like literally yesterday. So it looks exactly like it. Actually, because it was cold still when it came off the truck, I actually picked it up. I thought somebody left their drink on my desk and I was like, whoa. And they're like, nope, that's a stash can. They make them in Red Bull, Diet Coke, whatever. Pill bottles. I know people have seen regular pill bottles laying around, right? There's nothing abnormal about this, especially if you have somebody in the family that might be taking pills. But something to remember, we hear this happen a lot, and is that the pill bottles, what can often happen is they can be, the actual pills can be replaced in here with something that looks similar to like vitamins or whatnot. And you may not know that until after you've been in pain for a while or something like that. So it's super important to always lock up your pills. And I'll show you some lock boxes at the end of this. Another thing to consider with pill bottles is animal pills like tramadol. That's an opiate. Those also can be abused by humans. A lot of people don't know to lock up your pet meds, so make sure you lock up your pet meds. All right, now we're gonna go over to the nightstand. Over this way, and I'll bring them this way. And the first one I wanna show everybody is the deodorant. It looks like traditional Speed Stick. When you open it, it is traditional Speed Stick. It literally smells like Speed Stick, and you can actually use it if you really wanted. But the bottom comes off and is hollowed out. You would never know this if it was in a bag, and unless it was like in somebody's gym bag, you would never know that would open like that. So we always encourage parents that if it just doesn't look right, or if it's been in the bag for a long time, make sure you just check it. Say to your teen, let me replace that deodorant. You've had it for quite a while, and go that route. This is a metal water bottle. We see our teens carrying this. I carry it. Angie carries one. We all carry water bottles all the time. It is an actual water bottle. You can use it, fill it with water. I bet you can't guess what's going to happen with it. Yep, you guessed it. I can open the bottom. And there's even a stash bag. This one came with a stash bag. This is a way for teens to hide marijuana in there, and they can stash it up into the bottle. What I do want to note though is drug dogs can still smell the marijuana even though it's in the stash bag. So this water bottle looks very realistic. You can't even really tell that it opens at the bottom. A lot of young men carry wallets. And in the wallets, they might carry a condom. Good, right? They carry a condom in case they are going to use it. But a lot of times what happens now is they take the condom out of the wrapper and they fill it with other things like pills or drugs. So check that. If it looks like it's been opened, I would double check that for sure. But that has been a new way that we found that a lot of young men are carrying stuff. It's very inconspicuous. You can't really see it. It's in there. Nobody goes through anybody's personal items. That's the other thing. Like, we don't think about that. When we're looking at personal items, we oftentimes shy away from it. We go, oh, we don't want to go through that. That's his personal thing. So a lot of times, like health nurses would say that to us. They would say, we don't want to check into anybody's personal items, like the condoms or tampons or whatnot, because that's their personal items. Well, sometimes that's how they carry them because they're very crafty, like I showed you guys earlier. Another inconspicuous way that teens have been using or drinking alcohol is in little applesauce pouches. They fill them with alcohol. They smell like applesauce and they can carry them in and out of school, and you probably would never know that there's alcohol in there. I could tell you in our region, a lot of kids have been getting caught with this lately. Let's not forget huffing. Huffing is still a thing here. So a lot of times kids will take this and they'll suck out the butane of this, gets them really high. They can also have a psychosis. The problem is if you notice a lot of your whipped cream's going away and you're not baking any pies, you might want to double check that. That was one thing that I talked with a parent who she was just like, all my whipped cream keeps going away and I'm not using it. I don't know where it's going. And that was when we found out that her teen was actually huffing the whipping cream. All right, let's go into a backpack. A lot of parents won't check a backpack because they're worried that it's their personal space of the student. In reality, though, if you purchase this backpack, it's still your right to go through this backpack. And that's one thing we like to share with parents as well. Something really interesting to look at is this lanyard, right? So it has drug paraphernalia on it. That's kind of a red flag for us to take a look at and think to ourselves, if my son or daughter might be experimenting, or might not be experimenting, they probably wouldn't carry that around pot leaves on their lanyard. This is an interesting key fob. You can see it looks just like a key fob. The buttons press, the key comes up, but it's not your traditional key fob. It actually opens up. This one blew my mind, and I've been doing this a long time. You actually can put little things in there, pills, heroin, and it looks exactly like a key fob, and you would have no idea. So parents ask us all the time when we first started doing this, well, how do I know if my kid's key fob is wrong? Well, everybody's key fob has a logo on it that says Ford, Kia, whatever you drive, their logo is on your key fob. This one has no logo, so you can tell it's a fake, but it's very heavy and feels very real. Another place when we ask students where they were hiding drugs is in tissue packages. Something we never think of. They slice it open, stuff it in between the tissues, and you would never know. They're just in the tissue packages. Okay, we're going to go over to the other side of the bedroom, and we're going to go look at the garbage can. So why would you think, I mean, a garbage can is important to look through, and I'll tell you a couple reasons why. One of the things that we got a call on was parents were bus drivers were calling us from a local bus department and asking us why they're finding all of these baking extracts bottles in their garbage can. And we were like, we're not sure until we looked at the bottle. These are 75 to 80% alcohol. So teens drink them like shots. So if you're missing a bunch of pure baking extract, it could be this reason. Also, this is not locked up in stores, so anybody can go purchase this. Nobody's going to question them at the local grocery store why they might need vanilla extract, because their mom might be baking, so they don't think anything of it. So it's important to note, if you see a lot of these types of things in a garbage can, that there might be, that might be an indicator. This is one of those THC cartridges we talked about. This is how tiny they are. They look, this just fits on a traditional vape pen. And usually there's like a yellow substance inside. Sandy Leiber, who helped put this presentation together, was telling me a story about her son. When he was using heroin, she was missing a lot of tinfoil, and she was like, why is all my tinfoil going? And she noticed that there's little schnibbles of tinfoil everywhere. He was using it to wrap up the drugs. So if you notice that all your tinfoil is going away, or there's little schnibbles of tinfoil everywhere, that might be a sign. Sandwich baggies too, they rip them up and use them, the corners for drugs. So if you're missing a lot of sandwich baggies, or you start noticing that kind of thing in your garbage, that's something to look at. Let's go ahead and move this over to the bed. The bed, a place where a lot of teens will hide drugs, is in a pillowcase. And I want to just show you how easy that is. We often don't think of looking in a pillowcase. But if you notice, obviously, pillowcases are easy to hide stuff in. We have a bag with oregano in it. It's not weed. And it's just in the pillowcase back here. Easy place to hide. And if they conceal it long enough till mom changes the sheets, or if your kids start changing the sheets and putting their clothes away randomly, you might want to consider why. I can tell you that my teenage son is probably not the most clean. And he's got stuff everywhere, but if he came to me and started putting his clothes away in the right spot, I might start questioning that. Stuffed animals. Stuffed animals is another indicator in a hiding spot. Let me bring this closer to the camera. He looks like a cuddly stuffed animal. But we started asking, another mom told me what she noticed was fluff everywhere. She's like, why is there fluff? Like stuffed animal fluff all over the place. Well, her son snipped the back of the stuffed animals, and every time they pulled the bag out, the fluff would come out. So there's fluff all over everything. But it's easier for them to hide it in that either. You wouldn't think about it. You might think when you see a stuffed animal on a teen's bed, oh, they have compassion, they're doing it, but sometimes they are hiding. Shoes are another place that students can hide stuff. Shoes, they can hide them inside. A lot of times that's where we hear other parents tell us that a lot of students will hide drugs in the shoes because you don't think to look in there. They just put them in the closet and there's stuff hidden in all the front top of the shoes. They also sell insoles. I don't have any in these shoes, but they sell insoles with little compartments that you can wear. You can hide drugs in them and actually wear the shoes with that in there. All right. So we come back over to this side. Picture frames are another easy place to hide. If you look at this one, the back opens like a normal picture frame would. And you just take it out. And inside you can hide things like vape pens, dab pens, other drugs, anything like that. It's a huge concealment thing. A lot of people wouldn't even think to look in there. Eyeglass cases, another really good thing. A lot of parents will ask, this is actually a flavored Nick stick. So this is a grape flavored Nick stick. You can see how skinny that is. Super easy to conceal. A lot of kids, when they use these, like in school, you'll hear people saying they put it up their sleeve and they use it. They use it in their mouth like this. They put up their sleeve and it smells like grape, so you wouldn't even know. This is another one we just purchased yesterday. It's actually a planter. We just put the fake plant in there. You can put a real plant here actually, but you can put a real plant in, and it actually has a safe in it that locks. You can put anything you want in there. Safe goes in there. You wouldn't even know it's in there because it will probably have real dirt in it in a real plant, and that would really conceal it. You would never know. This is a dab pen. See how skinny these are? If they're thrown in like a pencil case, you may miss this because it does look much like a pen if you really look at it. But this is what they smoke that waxy substance out of. Remember I talked about how people are afraid to look at people's personal items? I think it's really important to start doing that because even though there's tampons, your traditional tampon, and even though this looks a little bigger, it does say tampon on it. So it is a booze tube. It's just a tube that they slide out, fill with booze and can use to drink out of. We had a bust in our community not too long ago where a lot of girls were doing that. And then also they were taking these regular tampons and opening them, sliding them out carefully, the tampon itself, filling them with like marijuana and then sealing it with their hair straighteners back up. So it looked like a tampon. People don't question this because it's a personal item. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the girls' dresser. Many things up here on the girls' dresser look like normal things. Like this hairspray, for example. It looks like hairspray. It has the thing. It even has a little bit in there to make it sound like something. It even has a smell to it, but it looks like it. But you can guess what the bottom does. It opens up. It's just magnets. That's all it does. This was purchased on Etsy as well. The phone box. People leave their phone when they purchase a new phone always like leave the boxes. And if you don't throw them away, sometimes people wouldn't think twice about it. But this is also a really good concealment area where we hear a lot of kids tell us that this is where they put their stuff because parents don't really look in it. But we just have another dab pen in there. But you can pretty much hide anything in here. You can even lift out the inside piece and lift it up high. The lipstick pipe looks like lipstick. This is an interesting one too, because it really does look like lipstick. It opens up and it's actually a pipe. You just take off the bottom and then you can use it as a pipe. It is not like real lipstick though. But if it was in a makeup bag, you may not check it. This Soren. If you look at the other vapes in here, if you really look at this, you probably can't tell in the screen which one's a real, which one is a vape. Maybe you can. But this one, if it's thrown in a makeup bag, looks like eyeshadow palette. So a lot of times they'll just throw it in with anything they think looks right. Another interesting one is the chapstick. We were at a conference and actually they took the chapstick because somebody took the chapstick off the table. They thought it was real. It is real, like on top, but in reality, it's not because you can pull the bottom out and it's fake. So you can stick like other things up there. They'll use that for pills or whatnot. The hairbrush looks like a regular hairbrush, feels like a hairbrush. But guess what? It opens and inside we stashed another oregano bag just so you can see how easy it would be to conceal that in there. It just fits in there like that and you can still use it. And if it was in something, you can't even smell it. Like I can smell the oregano when I open it, but I can't smell it when it's closed. It looks like a regular hairbrush. Tanning lotion flask. You can buy these right on Amazon. I don't want to give any ideas out there, but you can. And this one you just fill up. It looks like a regular tanning lotion. And they actually come with straws. I don't have the straw with this one. And you can put it right in the bottom and drink it right out of there. It actually has all of the ingredients on the back and everything, just same way as any other lotion bottle would. Batteries are another good hiding spot for them. And you might be asking yourself why. A lot of times there's kids that play video games and there'll be batteries everywhere. These batteries are fake batteries and you guessed it, they open up. A candle, a lot of times you'll see candles out so they can hide smells. And another way that they hide smells if they're vaping cannabis is through a toilet paper tube and a dryer sheet on the end. They literally just blow it through that so that you can't smell as much. And then they'll mask it with either incense, which is really popular right now among teens, incense and candles. And you can also purchase this device on Amazon, which is another like blow tube, they call them, where it opens up on both sides. You would blow the cannabis through this, the blunt if you're smoking one, and it comes out that and it aerates it. So those you could just buy right on Amazon. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to show you a couple ways or talk to you about a couple ways as a parent myself, how you can be proactive. Some things you can do is that I know this sounds silly and I'm not suggesting nobody has dinner with their kids. One way that you can be proactive is actually have dinner with your children. Sitting down with your child at dinner time creates a bond where you can begin having that conversation about drugs and alcohol with them. It's okay to take 10 minutes or 10 minutes out of their day and ask them about how if they know of anybody who's using or they're using themselves. You can do things with them more, start creating that bond, like going for a hike, seeing a movie, or going out to eat. And that's usually when conversations start. So Another way is to model good decision making. A lot of times as parents, we might have a drink out somewhere, maybe at a parent's house or a friend's house, and our kids might be with us. And we might say, well, it's okay for us to drive home because we had just one drink. Well, in reality, what we're showing them is that we feel it's okay if we have just one drink or whatnot. We feel like we're fine. So it's okay for them to do the same thing. So if we're just conscious of how we're doing things, that might be another good way. It's also important to know your kids' friends and their parents. And that's important because we want to make sure that they understand your rules and what your expectations are too. So like if they're going over to their house, that they're not going to be serving them alcohol. We actually just had that happen as well. A parent decided to serve alcohol to a dance team, and it actually had worse consequences for the girls that didn't show up than the girls that did. So the decision was that the parent allowed them to drink. And if we would have let those parents know what our expectations are, or they got to know us better, we might have not have had that happen. Another thing to be proactive about is give yourself time to determine what the consequences are. Think it through, be on the same page with your partner, and decide what are the consequences, and stick to the consequences if there are any. Is this peer pressure, or is there something else going on? And sometimes it's okay to take that child to a professional counselor and have that conversation with them as well. Another thing I'd like to check is, or talk about, is the consequence piece. A lot of the time in my household, what I did is I made sure that I had the conversation often with my kids. And let me tell you, just because I do what I do doesn't mean my kids were innocent by any means. I had some of the same issues that other parents have with their children as well. And I'll let you know that some of my consequences were, I always hung a drug test on my refrigerator as a reminder that I will drug test you whenever I want to, because it's a good deterrent in my mind. I felt like, and I will drug test them, and they knew I would. So I told them, if I ever ask you for a drug test, if you tell me no, you're kind of automatically guilty. That means to me that you're not willing to. So I did drug test my kids if I felt the need to. I also had a breathalyzer. You can buy these right at Best Buy or even on Amazon as well in the house. And one of my children was a little naughtier than the other, so I happened to use this a lot with her. But I had to breathalyze her sometimes when she'd come home because I could smell, but she tried to tell me she wasn't. So this is another true deterrent if you have it available. The reason I like to make these things known is because in reality, a lot of parents, they won't put up have a plan or an action plan. It's more or less like we tell our kids that we'll do this stuff and then we never do it. But if they think they know you will, they're more likely to tell their friends, I'm not going to do that because my parents blood test, or they drug test me and they breathalyze me. Another thing, when we talked about medications, like your pet meds and your medications, is to lock them up, because it might not be your kids or your family that's using or going to steal the medications. It could be your friend of a friend or whomever's in your home. And these are some drug lock boxes that you can purchase on Amazon that also should be used in your home if you can. All right, well, that's all we have. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today in our bedroom. And I'd like to introduce Dean Jeske.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Dean, take it away.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Gilda. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, let me get this off here. Well, first of all, thank you, Gilda, for having me, and thanks to everybody who's participating. This is going to be a little bit heavier than the presentation that you just heard. We are in the middle of an epidemic that is killing thousands and thousands of young people, high school age kids, college kids, in every community across the country. This generation of young people has normalized the taking and sharing of prescription pills. So think Percocet, Vicodin, Oxy, Xanax, Adderall. They're familiar with those prescription drugs. They may have friends or relatives who use them legitimately, but the taking and sharing of these prescription pills has become normalized. 10 years ago, that was a problem, but it wasn't necessarily a deadly problem. In the last 5 to 6 years, it has become a deadly problem. The street market for prescription pills has been flooded with fake pills. These are pills that are made by drug cartels and drug dealers, and they are made with a drug called fentanyl. Fentanyl, you may have heard about it. It's an opioid that is 50 times more potent than heroin, but 100 times more potent than morphine. And these young people are taking what they believe is a quote unquote safe prescription pill, a Xanax or an Adderall, and it's really a fake pill made with fentanyl, and all too often it's made with enough fentanyl to kill them. To put a finer point on this, since 2018, the number of fentanyl-related deaths among young people aged 14 to 18, so high school kids, has risen 350%. There's an estimate that in 2021, so last year, more than 5,000 young people ages 14 to 22 died as a result of taking counterfeit fake pills that were made with fentanyl. That's about 100 young people per week. And I'm fairly comfortable that the numbers for 2022, when they add them all up, will be even higher than that. I'm going to tell you right out of the gate here, as grateful as I am to be here talking to all of you, you are not my target audience. I've spent the last year trying to get in front of young people and meet them where they are, going to high schools, going to youth organizations to talk to them about this epidemic. And one of the first things that I tell them, and so I'm going to tell you, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm certainly not a member of law enforcement. My only qualification for talking to those young people and talking to all of you is that I'm a dad who lost his youngest son to this epidemic a little over 1.5 years ago. My son, Peter, this is Peter. He died in April of 2021 after taking a single pill that he believed to be a safe prescription pill. It wasn't. It was made of fentanyl, and it had enough fentanyl in it to kill him. When I do this presentation for the young people, the high school kids, I spend a lot more time talking about Peter than I'm going to tonight, just in the interest of time. But I will tell you, Peter was an amazing young man. He graduated from Glenbard South High School in 2017. He was very bright, Illinois State Scholar, National Honor Society, a good athlete, captain of the football team, a varsity basketball player. And he had no history of addiction issues or substance abuse issues. He was a pretty regular high school kid. He went to the Indiana University, spent 4 years there studying finance. And when he was about 6 weeks from graduating, his roommate came back after having been out with some friends and saw that Peter's door was closed. Didn't think anything of it, thought Peter had gone to bed, got up the next morning. Peter's door was still closed. He went to class, played a round of golf, came back later that afternoon, and at that point realized he hadn't seen Peter in about 24 hours. Knocked on his door, there was no answer. He entered his bedroom and found him on his bed, and Peter was gone. About 6 weeks after that, my wife and I found out that Peter had died of what the autopsy report described as a fentanyl overdose. I didn't know what fentanyl was. I had never heard of it. So I embarked on a journey to learn what was going on here after having about a 45-minute discussion with the coroner in Monroe County, Indiana. And that's when I decided that young people, we weren't talking to the young people about this issue about fake pills, fake prescription pills made with fentanyl that are killing hundreds and thousands of young people around the country. Again, this presentation I'm doing, I will tell you, it typically takes about 50 minutes to an hour when I do it for young people. Gilda asked me to kind of keep this to 10 or 15 minutes, so I'm giving you the very abbreviated version of this. But when I talk to the young people, I like to get to kind of the bottom line pretty early on in the presentation. So this is the bottom line. The street supply of prescription pills has been flooded with these fake pills made with fentanyl. And when I say the street supply, the days of young people, meeting with a drug dealer in a dark alley in the sketchy part of town, that still probably happens from time to time. But the street really now is the internet. It is Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok. The drug dealers are incredibly sophisticated, and they are targeting young people through these apps in an attempt to sell them these drugs. And they are making millions and millions of dollars selling these pills because they make them very cheaply. Fentanyl is very cheap to make. And so they can make them cheaply. They can sell a pill that they might make for 4 or 5 cents. They can sell for $5 or $10. And so the young people in your lives need to understand that any pill that they come into contact with that wasn't prescribed for them by their doctor is almost certainly a fake. It's almost certainly made of fentanyl, and there's a very, very real chance that it has enough fentanyl in it to kill them. You can see on the screen here the picture of these are oxys. The ones on the top are real ones. The ones on the bottom are counterfeit fake pills that contain fentanyl. I can tell you that I've gotten to know some members of law enforcement, including DEA agents, and they can't tell the difference between these pills. So there's really no chance that a young person, a high school kid or a college kid, is going to be able to tell the difference. I'm gonna show you now a short video that really sort of gets into this whole issue of how we got to where we are and what these fake pills are about. It's a video that was made by an organization called Song for Charlie that I've partnered with in the wake of Peter's passing. It was an organization started by a family whose son, Charlie, unfortunately passed away under circumstances incredibly similar to Peter. And I connected with that family and their organization. And so they put together this video. So I'll play this and then we'll unpack it a little bit after we get done.
You've heard about pills killing young people, right? A teenager takes what they thought was a prescription pill and never wakes up. We're not talking about a drug overdose, accidental or otherwise. We're talking about being fatally poisoned by a single pill, one that looks like a legit Xanax or Percocet or Oxycontin. Except these pills aren't legit. They're counterfeit, fake. They can kill you within minutes. And it's happening all around you. The fastest growing group of victims is young and inexperienced. They take pills for different reasons. Some of them are experimenting. Others are stressed out and self-medicating. Many victims died at home in their beds after swallowing just one pill. Every young person is at risk. So what's going on? We live in a quick fix, pill popping culture, and we've been taught to trust prescription pills. In some cases, these medications are necessary, but they can also cause addiction. That's why we're in the midst of an opioid epidemic. So many people in the US became addicted to opioids that drug dealers started making fake pills to meet demand. The active ingredient of choice for these counterfeit pills? Fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid that's so potent, it has to be highly regulated. There is no standard amount of fentanyl in these illegally made pills. They're not prescription medications. They're just thrown together in people's basements and garages with other cheap ingredients like filler powder and pressed into pill form. The dosage is never even. That's why they're so deadly. But fentanyl can be cheaply imported, and it's also highly addictive, which makes it ideal for creating fake pills. The drug cartels got involved too. They started to produce these counterfeit prescription pills containing fentanyl, known as fentanyls, on a massive scale, flooding the US with millions of fakes dressed up to look like the real thing. You can't tell them apart. Authorities can't fix this or make it go away, but you don't have to be the next victim. If you don't know where your pills are coming from, don't take them. Don't believe sellers on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, or any app. Don't believe friends who get pills from supposedly reliable dealers. Don't believe someone who says a pill has been tested. You may have heard of test strips that can detect fentanyl in illegally made drugs, but they're not reliable with pills, where fentanyl can be unevenly distributed. There's no way to figure out whether a pill contains fentanyl without grinding it up and dissolving it. In other words, destroying it. So if a drug comes to you in pill form, it hasn't been tested, period. And even if you test one pill in a batch, you have no way of knowing whether the other pills contain fentanyl. If it's not from a doctor or pharmacist, it's not legit. No random pills. Now you know the facts. Tell your friends, tell everyone you know. The more people who learn about fentanyls, the safer we're all going to be. You didn't create this problem, but you can be part of the solution. Help us spread the word. One pill can kill.
So, like I said, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm not gonna unpack it all. There are a couple things I want to, a couple observations I guess I want to make. First of all, you'll notice that in that video, they talk about poisonings, and I will tell you, as somebody whose life has been devastated by this this fake pill fentanyl epidemic, I never describe what happened to Peter as an overdose. That's what it says on his autopsy report, but that's not really what happened to him, or any of these young people that are taking these pills. They didn't overdose, they were poisoned. And I think it's important that we use the right language when we talk about this. Peter didn't know he was taking fentanyl. He wasn't trying to take fentanyl. He thought he was taking a prescription pill that, you know, while a mistake, because he didn't get it from a doctor, shouldn't have been a mistake that cost him his life. The other thing I'll point out is there was a statistic in that video about the DEA and the pills that they've seized, and they tested the pills that they seized in 2021 and found that 40% of the pills that they had seized, about 20 million pills, about 40% of them had a lethal dose of fentanyl in them. Just in the last 3 weeks, the DEA has updated those statistics based on the seizures they've made in 2022, and that number is now 60%. So 60% of the pills that they're finding have a lethal dose of fentanyl. I feel like I've lost my my screen share here. So, you know, my message to all of you is have a conversation with any young people in your life, whether it's your kids, nieces or nephews, neighbor kids, whoever it is. They need to know about this. Make it a conversation, not an accusation. When I talk to the young people, I make it really clear to them, like, they didn't cause this problem, but I'm actually incredibly optimistic that they can solve it. I can tell you that when I talk to young people about this, and I probably talked to roughly 3,000 or so in the last 9 or 10 months, they're very attentive, they're very engaged. They ask fantastic questions. So, and I try to end on an optimistic note with them. I really think they can solve this problem. Let them know that, that this is a real risk and that young people are dying. One of the things that they react to very positively is they're being lied to. They're being deceived by these drug dealers. They think they're buying an Adderall to help them, study or stay up late, or they think they're buying a Xanax to help them kind of chill out and relax and relieve some anxiety or stress. That's not what they're getting. They're not getting what they're being told they're getting from these drug dealers online. Another approach is to focus on their friends. They may not have an issue with self-medicating, but that they may know a friend or a classmate that is. So we need to talk to them about that. And we need to let them know that there really are no safe sources for these pills. If it was not prescribed for a young person by a doctor, it's, again, like I said at the beginning, it's fake. It's almost certainly made of fentanyl, and there's a 6 in 10 chance that it's got enough fentanyl in it to kill them. In the interest of time, I'm gonna end with just a couple of asks for all of you that are listening. The one is the one I just made. Please talk to the young people in your lives. The second ask is, if you have good contacts at whatever high school your son or daughter goes to, and you'd like to reach out to those contacts and have them reach out to me, I've kind of made a commitment to talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime about this issue, because it's just heartbreaking to me, the thought that some other young person is going to lose their life to this when it's so preventable. I'm happy to speak at any school and work with them to talk to the students there. I've talked with a number of schools in the Chicagoland area. I'm working on getting into more, but I can use all the help and all the advocates I can get. So with that, I'm going to end. I've got my contact information there. That's my personal email address. Please feel free to reach out to me if you think you can get me in front of young people anywhere, so we can continue to spread the word.
Thank you so much. I've heard you now twice. Your passion, your heartbreak really has touched us all. No one left as we stuck around here for a few more minutes, Dean. So people are listening.
And just to finish the slide off here, I mentioned this organization, Song for Charlie. It's really kind of the leading advocate for this issue out there. So if you want to take a look at that website, they've got an enormous amount of incredibly helpful information about this issue.
Excellent, thank you. I want to mention too, in terms of context, that one of our sponsors, Northwestern Medicine, is offering wake-up call backpack presentations. I believe they're free, and there's the contact information. And Dean, we have your contact information there in the chat. I have a question for you, Dean. Well, when you talk to youth, what is it that what's the question that comes up most frequently?
One of the questions I always get, whether I'm talking to young people or adults, is, why would the drug dealers use this fentanyl substance if it's, theoretically killing their customers? And the short, kind of unfortunate answer is they're drug dealers and they just don't care. And they view this as just the cost of doing business. And if several thousand young people in the United States die because they take a pill, that's just the cost of doing business. So that's one of the questions I get a lot. Occasionally I'll get someone come up to me after one of my presentations, very concerned because they take, some over-the-counter drug or sometimes even a prescription drug, and they're concerned about whether they can take that. And I always say, like, no, that's if it's prescribed by your doctor, or you buy it, you can buy it at CVS or Walgreens, that's totally fine. Those aren't the pills that the drug dealers are counterfeiting. They're counterfeiting the drugs that people are trying to get access to without going to a doctor. right? So those are the typical questions I get asked.
Mhm. And Lindsay, there's a question that came for you, which is so similar to the one that just came to Dean. Why are these vape pens sold when we know they're so harmful to young people?
Well, the main reason is because the companies that own the vape pen products are like big tobacco, Marlboro, Camel, all of those companies are what own the vape pen products, and they can no longer advertise the traditional cigarette because most people think of ick right away. They've been downplayed so much. There's been ads out with like people having stomas in and all of that. And to be honest with you, it really is because they own it and it's money and it's a way. If you look at the marketing on the vape pens and the marketing on traditional cigarettes from back in the day, it's exactly the same. The pictures, it's just more updated, meaning like they might have different colors and like a small different glitch, but it really looks exactly the same. They're just owned by Marlboro and big tobacco. It's all about money.
Is there a question that you normally get from young people or adults when you give these presentations, Lindsay?
For parents or adults in general, we get a lot of questions behind fentanyl right now. Right now, we have a fentanyl crisis up here where we're at in our communities, and we're facing the same things like Dean was talking about up here. So we get a lot of questions right now. It's a lot about fentanyl. And where I'm from, we're actually from Wisconsin, and we don't have legalized marijuana here. So that's also another question. Parents up here are now wondering what will happen if that happens. You know, will this be okay for our students or not okay for our students? So that's something we're battling now. When it comes to youth, what we get asked a lot of is really what we see, like our students might say to us, well, we see so-and-so like our brother or sibling or our best friend's parents smoking vape. So why they can't be bad. So they're not correlating the badness with it, even though we're all in their schools and talking. So that's really what we see. They're not correlating.
There are many people who have texted me and are already receiving calls. Dean, there are so many people, so grateful, talking about your lovely, bright, wonderful child. And they're expressing their gratitude to you, asking other students to educate each other, and lots of people thanking you tonight for that. And Lindsay, you as well. I'm so grateful to the people who have stuck around. We do have this recorded. Thank you both. We'll be able to share this. This will be on our Glenbard Parent Series YouTube channel. I also want to make mention that last week on November 30th, we had two events that were on this very topic. At noon, we hosted the author of Dopamine Nation, Dr. Anna Lebke from Stanford University. She was in conversation with Jessica Leahy, the author of The Gift of Failure. She also wrote Addiction Inoculation, about her own addiction and writing the book in order to benefit her children from the family disease. At 7 p.m. on November 30th, we hosted a Glenbard grad, Dr. Timothy Fong, an addiction psychiatrist from UCLA. He was in conversation with Tom Farley, brother of Chris Farley. There was lots of good information there. So we'll be posting that in the next couple of days on the Glenbard Parent Series YouTube channel. It is on the YouTube channel right now. Thank you so much, Jerica. Thank you everyone for listening in. This won't be the last time we talk about this. We have another program coming up in April with an addiction psychiatrist. Eric Fisher will be talking about his own addiction. Gratitude to everyone for listening in. Gratitude to both of you, Dean and Lindsay. Thank you, Marina. Marina, you've got one quick question before we say goodbye. Yes?
I just wanted to, coming from an educator, but as a parent, more importantly, we're parents first before educators. But tonight was, I know, Dean, I've seen your presentation. You presented at Glenbard South. But thank you to both of you. It was very eye-opening. Like I said, not just as an educator, but as a parent. And a lot of the things that I heard tonight, I will take forward with me to our kids at Glenbard South. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marina. That's wonderful to hear. Everybody, this is where we say good night and we say go hug the kids. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening and a safe holiday. Thank you.